Ready to kick things off, Peter? I can start if you'd like me to.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Awesome.
please.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our session today. We're excited to have the opportunity to speak with everyone. Just before we dig into everything, we'll just give a quick agenda for what we'll cover today. Peter and I will introduce ourselves, kind of discuss who Proxyclick is and what we do, give you some insight into our functionalities, and we save some time at the end for questions. So if you have any urgent questions or want to type them in the chat as we're going along, we'll do our best to monitor everything, but there will be a time at the end for questions as well. So I can kick things off. My name is Chris Benza. I'm an account executive on the sales team at Proxyclick, and I'm based in New York. And essentially what my role is to help inform companies on Proxyclick's capabilities and how it can impact and improve their business. And before I was at Proxyclick, I've held a variety of roles in the real estate industry. I worked at a flexible office space provider called Notel for a few years. And before that, I worked at one of Cushman & Wakefield's affiliate offices, doing some market research and brokerage there as well.
Great. I'm Pieter. I'm a product manager at Proxyclick. I'm based in Belgium. And my background is mainly in the development of digital products. And at Proxyclick, I take care of the roadmap and iterations of the Proxyclick Flow product.
Awesome. So who are we? What is Proxyclick? If you were to Google us or look us up, you could see that we're a cloud-based visitor management software. But I like to describe us as a manager of people flow in buildings. And what does that mean? It's helping people know who will be in a building, who is currently in a building, and historically who was in a building at any given time, and who are the type of people that we interact with. These people could be anyone from visitors, employees, contractors, tenants, property managers, building owners, really anyone that's interacting with any type of facility. And what we've built here is a product that can service a single 50-person office, but also support Fortune 500 companies. As you can see here, we work with over 30 Fortune 500 companies who have dozens of locations across the globe. So we support a fully touchless visitor flow. Peter's going to touch on that more in a few minutes, but we're also an industry-leading global privacy support. So if you're a European customer who may need GDPR compliance, or in California, CCPR compliance, or any type of industry-specific regulation, we help support with that. And I think what helps us as or being an industry leader is our deep expertise in integrations, whether that's access control or Active Directories that you're utilizing, as well as meeting room management or different types of softwares like Slack or Microsoft Teams. We can integrate with a lot of those different types of applications. And one thing to note as well, we've had over 35 million visits in Proxyclick system so far. So we're very much so a customer-centric type company. We take the feedback and experiences from our customers to continuously evolve our product. And again, Peter will talk a little bit more about how we've evolved in a few minutes here. So here's examples of some of the customers that we're working with on a global scale. I think what's really important to note is we're not just in Europe, or we're not just in the United States. We can help companies on a global basis. And those are all different types of facilities too. I think a lot of people first think of offices when it comes to visitor management software, which is definitely a large portion of our customers, but we also help industrial type uses. So if it's warehouse facilities or distribution centers or light industrial manufacturing plants, we can help with visitor management in all sorts of those types. And we have team members in each of these different continents as well. So we're based in the US for our North American customers. We have a presence in Brussels for European, and then in Singapore as well for Middle East and APAC based customers as well. So here is a little bit more into the evolution of visitor management, where it's come from, and kind of what we're leading to into 2021. And I think for what most people's experiences was, maybe since the inception of when people were entering buildings, was this physical paper logbook. So people coming into a space and using pen and paper to log themselves, which is a very manual process for the visitor, but also on the back end, it's very admin intensive. And it can create a bottleneck on both ends of the spectrum. So for visitors coming into a lobby, there may be lines for people to be logging in, or at entrances, gates, if there's truck drivers that need to come in and out to move products. This created a big bottleneck. So around 2015 is when companies started to realize this is becoming a big issue, and use technology to digitize visitor management. So this created more efficiency. So now people can check in using iPads or computers with receptionists, and also creating more of a secure database as well. So with the paper logbook, all you had was this physical paper logbook, and if something happened, you lose those records forever. Now that you're digitizing it, you'll have the records on file in the cloud. And then once people started to utilize this digitized version, they realized that they had different types of visitors. So around 2018, it was about implementing more of an integrated visitor experience. So people realize, all right, we have different types of visitors. We may have one-off visitors, we may have contractors coming in, or job applicants. And these different types of people may have different flows for how they'll be interacting with your building, whether it's going to specific floors in the building, or meeting with certain people, or different information that you need to acquire for these types of visitors, which is when people really started to integrate the visitor experience in this way. And then 2019 leading into 2020, the next evolution of this was essentially people realizing, okay, we have different platforms for different types of building uses. So we may use Proxyclick for visitor management. We use a different platform for our employees, and then another for contractors. And really now it's about unifying the people flow, so you can have one single platform and location for managing all of these people inside and out of your facilities. And then in 2020, a lot of things obviously have changed, and COVID has had an extreme impact on the world, but I think very specifically the real estate industry in general. So the COVID has changed the behaviors of people in and out of buildings for a while. For the short term, a lot of people were working from home, but there were still people that were essential workers going into facilities, and this really changed the way that companies and building owners looked at safety and security in their buildings. So for those that were still going to the offices, from contact tracing purposes to having touchless type interactions and systems, people were evolving the way that their behaviors were in the workplace. And we saw that office users who may be working from home temporarily, they needed to come up with a return to work strategy for when their businesses were going to be going back to the office, whether that was in 2020 or looking forward to 2021, when we're starting to see a lot of people going back into the office environment as well. So in December of 2020, about 6 months into the pandemic, what we did was we surveyed over 300 people in the commercial real estate industry. So whether they were end users or property managers, owners, and we wanted to understand what their return to work strategies may be, and what kind of they see as the future of the workplace. So Peter, if you want to pull up these next 3 slides, we noticed from our survey a couple of things that we saw. 52% of people felt that they were somewhat prepared to offer tenants and employees a safe and healthy work experience. So there was still 48% of these people may not have had a plan at all in place, or their building wasn't sufficient to react to the COVID situation. And then 85% of people believe that technology is key to planning a return to the workplace. So this may be people that were already implementing technology, or people that were looking for technology to help expedite this process for them. And then 96% of people saw value in having a unified process for managing the flow of people. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people may already have certain applications already in place, but they're not interacting with each other. And it's easiest for people just to have one central location for everything. So what do we do with this survey? What do we do with this information? And we looked at it as, how can we implement this into Proxyclick and create a product that increases efficiencies for visitors and employees, increase safety and security for buildings. And now with COVID, for having all of these tracking purposes, maybe for contact tracing and understanding who is in and out of your building. And now Pieter will kind of show you what our product looks like and how we've actually achieved this.
Yes, thank you, Chris. So something that the pandemic has taught us is that we have to be equally attentive to those people who walk into our buildings occasionally, our visitors, and those people who walk into the buildings day to day for their work, the employees. So that's why in 2020, Proxyclick has shed its skin as a visitor management system and re-emerged as a people flow solution. What I want to talk to you about today is I want to talk you through 3 of the changes that we made that have become indispensable tools for managing lobbies. And those are screening, touchless access, and lastly, health and safety features that we've added. So let's begin with screening. We've made it possible for you to ask questions and retrieve information from those people that are going to visit you before they are scheduled to walk through the doors. You can ask them about their recent travel history. You can ask them whether they're going to do hot works or electrical maintenance in your building. And based on what they answer you, you can show them with tailored messaging. You could show them different induction videos based on what they answered, or you can have them sign different agreements or show different instructions. Lastly, it's also possible to deny access to certain people based on what they answer in this registration flow. And all of this is happening in a mobile-friendly way, so it's accessible on the go, and you have a high likelihood of getting it there. So next up is touchless access. Our product has always been about keeping the lobbies rolling by providing smooth check-in experiences that don't compromise on security. And in the last year, making it personally safe from a health perspective has only become an additional requirement to that. So that has really driven us to change our flows to offer experiences to people that are touchless. And with our touch points and with our integrations, we're able to offer exactly that. And let's take the example, for example, of an expected visitor. So in the top part of this slide, you're seeing what is possible if we can work with your team to integrate your access control system with Proxyclick. So when your visitor receives an invitation, he's going to get a link that allows him to start the screening process in a feature we call remote registration. At the end of that, your visitor is going to get a token that the visitor can then present at your turnstile. It will open the gates and hail an elevator that is going to bring him to the right floor that he needs to be at. And at the same time, the host of that visitor is going to be notified so that the host is going to be ready at the elevator the moment that person walks out. And at no point in this flow does the visitor need to touch any shared surface. So that's really beneficial there. Now, if you're in a building where integrating with an access control system is not yet an option, we offer an alternative. And that's what you see at the bottom of this slide. We offer a kiosk app that basically can serve as an access point where the visitor can present his token and get checked in that way. If your building requires a manual in-person security check, we can also accommodate for that. We have a desktop application that your front desk officers can use that have all the information about a visit at a glance so that your security guards can make an informed decision about whether or not to check someone in. And all that as well doesn't require a visitor to touch anything shared. So this is about expected visitors, but even when the visitor is unexpected, when it's a walk-in, if you support that in your building, we can also make that a touchless experience. In that case, it's the visitor who initiates the screening process on his own mobile device, goes through the flow, and then gets checked in that way. So that's also a possibility there. Now, moving on to our third capability, that's about enabling employee health and safety. We've provided several features over the last few releases, from booking your presence at the office, managing the occupancy at your sites, and integrating with temperature scanner devices, as you see here in the picture. All of this we've done to make it so that your people can keep using the workplace again and feel safe while doing so. Now, in order to make it a bit more clear about how that works, I want to show you a quick video of how that works from a user experience point of view, so what the employee is going to experience. But before I show you that, just one more addition there. We hope you'll never need it, but if it ever arises, we also offer you the ability to do contact tracing. That includes both visitor information and employee information, because it turns out that bacteria don't discriminate either, so neither should our contact tracing solution. So I'm gonna start off the video, and I'm really gonna hope the sound is gonna work for you here.
Many organizations are struggling
to hear the sound?
Safe and touchless return to the workplace for their employees. This is how Proxyclick got return ready. This is Henry, and he needs to go to the office next week. But current regulations mean he can't just show up unannounced. So he opens his Proxyclick Prover app to schedule his next day in the office. It looks like there's room for him on Thursday, and he sees Anne from marketing will be there too. He hasn't spoken to her in a while, so it would be great to catch up. So he goes ahead and he books his desk. Behind the scenes, Proxyclick checks occupancy levels to ensure socially distanced visits. On Wednesday, Henry gets a link to his company's screening questions asking him if he had any symptoms of illness. He notices a new question has been added to reflect new government regulations. He doesn't have any symptoms, so his digital key is updated to give him access the next day. The key is then securely stored in his Prover app. On Thursday, Henry arrives at the office and his temperature is scanned. Once it confirms he's not over a certain temperature, it checks him in. His presence is registered and he's added to the emergency list. In case there's a need for contact tracing in the coming weeks, Henry can now be contacted at the push of a button. Keep in mind that Proxyclick also integrates with access control systems and allows check-in via kiosk. He heads to his desk and enjoys a fun, socially distanced, and productive day with his colleagues. After work, Henry heads home and checks out using the kiosk. Last time he forgot, but not to worry. The system checks him out automatically at midnight. To find out how Proxyclick can help you get back to work safely, visit our website.
All right, great. So that's just a look at how our features work from a perspective of those people walking into your offices every day. And if you want to learn more about any of those capabilities, do reach out to us in the Q&A or afterwards. We're happy to give you a bit more explanation about those things there. Now, before I check off, one last word about deployments. If there's one thing that we've learned from working with world's largest property management companies and Fortune 500 organizations, is that there is no such thing as a standard building. That's why we've built very flexible user management capabilities in the Proxyclick, making us able to support situations where different teams from different companies have different responsibilities about different domains. Because the people who are supposed to set up your branding or screening policies don't need to have access to the whole logbook and information of people that are going to walk into your building today. And neither does it in the other way around. So we support cases where you can really nail down who can see what and who can do what in your building, because, well, every building has a different structure, and we have a team ready to work with you on that. And to tell you a bit more about one of those stories that we had with one of our customers, Chris is now going to walk you through one of our deployments at one of our great use cases. Chris?
Thanks, Pieter. Yeah, and exactly as Pieter had mentioned, so you've seen some of the features and functionalities, and then you saw the video, but how do we actually apply this in a real world scenario? And I think a great case study for this is the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which is a 300-acre campus in New York City. And it's essentially a redevelopment of an old Navy Yard that is now used for industrial purposes. There's manufacturing, warehouse facilities, as well as offices. So there's 260 tenants within the park, with over 10,000 employees coming in and out of the facility every day. And before COVID, they had roughly 1,000 to 2,000 visitors every single day that they were trying to manage. So before Proxyclick came along, they had an internal system that they had created, and this became a big bottleneck. It was more manual. So in the office portion, there were people that were always waiting in the lobby to be able to be checked in, and then as well as the gates. So for cars and truck drivers, they had mentioned that there were lines all the way down the street for people waiting to get into the campus. So they needed to find a more efficient way to be able to manage and track all of these people coming in and out of their building. So that's where Proxyclick came along. And essentially now all of the tenants and employees within the campus are able to pre-register their visitors. Their visitors receive the QR codes that Pieter had showed. And now they can just go through the turnstiles that are connected to their access control system, utilize the QR codes to record that they've arrived on site, and they can walk to their specific floors and tenants that they need to see. And they also have them connected to the access controls of the gates of the building externally as well as the campus. So the truck drivers that are coming in, the cars that are coming in, they just scan their QR codes up to the turnstiles, it lifts the gates, and it creates a much more efficient flow for those people as well. And obviously, since COVID has occurred, it's made a big impact in their campus as well. So originally, efficiency and speed, increasing speed was a big factor in them deciding to move with Proxyclick, but now it moved to more of a health and safety. So throughout the pandemic, there are still people coming in, although the volume may not be as high. The importance has shifted more so from efficiency, which we've already accomplished for them, and now moved into the health and safety. So having that touchless check-in where the visitors, employees, don't need to physically interact with the kiosks, they can now do that in a touchless manner, so that they're well equipped to have the safety aspect of it, and then the historical reporting. So as you saw in the video, the ability to do the contact tracing, so they know who is always in the building, and if for any unforeseen circumstance where they have to contact the visitors, they have those capabilities to do so right in the Proxyclick system. So what this did overall is it found that we've decreased the time for check-in by 33%, which is a significant amount. It's created a better visitor experience for the people that are coming in, and really eliminated a lot of the bottlenecks that they saw using their internal system. And I'll actually share, here's a quote that we had from the director of applications, but actually in the chat, I'll share, we also have a video. We're not gonna cover that today, but we have a video on the case study of Book and AVR that I'll share with everyone in the chat right now. Perfect. Awesome. I'll look in the chat. I don't see any questions right now, but is there anything that anyone would like to add into the chat? Any specific questions that we can help with? We'll give everyone a minute here. And if not, Pieter, if you could just backtrack to one page. There are a few, well, people kind of gather any thoughts or questions that they might have. There's a few frequently asked questions that I speak with a lot of companies, and these are some of the most common that I've seen, so we can help answer these. How does a property manager and or end user implement Proxyclick? So we do have, as I mentioned, we're very customer focused, and we do have a customer success team that will help you implement Proxyclick into your building. So we'll come up with timelines and action items and everything needed to actually build your account and make it deployable into your building. And then while you're while that's all set up and you're live and launched in your facility, we always have that customer success team there to answer any questions that your tenants may have, that your property manager may have throughout the use and duration. And we understand, as Pieter mentioned, every building has a very different setup. So our customer success team is there to go through the specific use cases and ideal visitor and employee flows for your building. So we're always there, kind of side by side, holding your hand from that perspective. The second question that we get a lot is, what is the typical time frame to deploy Proxyclick? And again, that's very customized, dependent on what your use case is for your specific building. If you are maybe a single office type user with one location, it could take as little as a few weeks. But if you're a global company looking to launch this in, let's say, 50 plus locations, there is a process where it may take 6 months or so from start to finish, to ordering all the hardware, making sure all the access controls are in place. So our recommendation, we've seen a lot of this question, especially around the return to work strategy, when people are trying to figure out when, how much time they need to prepare for this. So our recommendation is always the sooner the better. Even if you're planning on going back to the office, let's say in the summer of 2021 or the fall of 2021, getting these conversations early and being prepared for that is always helpful. And then the last question is can Proxyclick integrate with some of our existing systems and applications? We touched on this a little bit before, but absolutely. And I think with our access control systems, that turnstiles, doors, elevators that you may have in your buildings, we can integrate with a lot of those, as well as applications that your tenants may be using. So if that's Microsoft Outlook or Calendar, different ways that we can implement notifications for your hosts and for your visitors, as well as meeting room management software that you may be using. There's a lot of different applications that we can discuss and that we can integrate with. So if there's specific integrations that you're interested in learning about, we're happy to have that conversation offline as well. Peter, anything that you'd like to add to those?
So are there any questions coming in from the audience? Maybe then treat those first.
Yeah, looks like Charmaine asks, how long does it take to adopt the system in the building?
Well, I think that depends a bit on the size of the building. I think you also covered that partly in your in the second question. Well, depending on like how many different stakeholders and the different policies have to be implemented, I think that can be it can be up and running in a few weeks if need be. We have a customer success team that for these kinds of projects have a white glove approach, where we really put a project manager on it and we really accommodate your schedule there. So depending on which tenant is available when, how many people need to approve certain stuff, basically like if you can accommodate being up and running within a week or two, then we will do our best to match that. When there are like more technical matters to be resolved, like integrating with access control systems, or there are some custom things that need to be arranged, that can of course increase a bit the timeline. But if you're interested and have any specific things in mind, happy to engage with you offline about that topic.
Yeah, and I think to your point as well, kind of just beyond the initial deployment too, I think for people adopting the system, let's say tenants, for example, that are using it for the first time, I would say that we're a very user-friendly platform. And what we do during the deployment process as well is we can have training sessions with different stakeholders, whether it's the property managers or champions from the specific tenants, where we can have administrative training for them, so they really know how to utilize the system and maximize its functionality, and then they can share that with all of the employees in their companies or in their buildings as well. And we also have a help center, so if people are adopting, have specific questions, we have a help center that we can go to. We have a chat support that will always be on 24/7. So there's different ways that people that are learning and adopting to the Proxyclick system have all of the those at their will.
Yeah, and there's even an academy section of our website where you can go step by step through all the common actions that you typically have to do when you start using Proxyclick. And so one of the things that we've seen that is quite successful to help expedite the adoption of the solution is using the integrations that bring the solution really close to where your users already are. One of the examples there is our calendar integration. We offer like add-ins for Outlook or any calendaring solution, where you can very easily create visits and pre-register visitors without leaving your familiar calendar or office suite, which makes it a lot easier for employees or other people to actually adopt the system if they don't have to learn too many new things. So that really is a helper if that's also involved.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we're at the half-hour mark right now. So if there's no other questions, Pieter and I will always be available. So feel free to reach out to us. If you're interested in seeing more, feel free to go to our website here or scan this QR code, and we're happy to book a demo and have further conversations on it. Awesome.
Right, cool. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us and for your kind attention, and hope to talk to you all soon.
All right. Thanks, everyone.